How do I look with this? Does it work?
It works,
Yeah?
du meinst, you mean the
Yeah. I think I need to hold it like this a little bit. Yeah, this is better.
You can use the cube as well.
I hate the cube. I'll just do something special. Haha. So much expectation.
Actually, this one looks like it needs a bit more.
A bit louder? Okay. Louder, 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 louder. Is it better? Yep. Good. Ooh, that's a bit too much. Yeah, let's try. If I go too loud, you let me know. I'm loud by nature. Chris, Mia, fellow MeasureCamp organizers, just having such a nice chat. Are we ready to start? Christian, are we ready to start? Yes, we good. Okay, we're ready to start. 3 minutes late. Good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to MeasureCamp. I don't even know what number it is, but MeasureCamp Berlin 2022, number 4, I've been told. It's great to have you here after a couple of years of a break for obvious reasons. So yeah, it's amazing to see this room full. This is great. Before I start with my usual blah, 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 my name is Jorge, part of the organizing committee. If you need anything, you can always come to me or anyone else wearing one of these t-shirts. We'll try to help you anytime. Cool, so MeasureCamp. Guten Morgen, I already said that, good morning. Buenos dias, bonjour, bom dia, and a lot of other things that I don't really know how to say, but looks really cool on screen, trying to be inclusive. The buenos dias would be the one that represents me most. I'm from Spain. This is the thing that I do best, speak in Spanish. Excellent. So a bit of background of MeasureCamp. I bet that a lot of you have been at MeasureCamp before, but maybe some of you haven't. So I'm going to give a bit of history. Once upon a time, there was an Aussie country boy that was very frustrated because he was never invited to speak at conferences. He was the founder of MeasureCamp. He is Peter O'Neill. And he could only think of one solution after a few years, which was to start MeasureCamp. That was back in 2012, so September 2012. That means we're close to the 10th anniversary of MeasureCamp. And that's a massive feat. I mean, I was in one of the first ones in London, where it all started. And I think we were fewer people than we're here today. London today is a massive event. Cool. So now I think it's been held around 15 times in London where it all started. It went from 130 people to more than 300 over there. I think here, I don't know how many we will be at the end of the day. We had over 200 registrations. It is around 40% international, so locals versus people traveling for it. With MeasureCamp Berlin, it's been held in more than 24 cities, so it's truly, truly across the globe. This is some of them only. If you want more info about it, I totally invite you to go on the measurecamp.org website. You can see a lot more of the history and how it spread. And it's become the biggest analytics conference in the world. So here you are, part of it. Amazing. Cool. So who is here today? Let's make a bit of a warm-up, show of hands. Who has been to a MeasureCamp before? Who's been to a MeasureCamp before? Keep your hands up. 10 times. I should be doing it the other way around. So keep your hands up again, the ones who have been. 2 times. No? 3 times? 4 times? 5 times? 6 times? 7 times? 8 times? 9 times? No, that's it. Like, memory starts getting blurry. How many after so many beers? 9, 10 times. Okay, amazing. So we have some veterans. That's great. That's always good to have a good mix between people who are new and people who are not so new. Amazing. Who has been to an unconference before that is not MeasureCamp? Okay, a few people. That's good. So we'll tell more about what an unconference is. Where are you coming from? So who is coming from Berlin, is located in Berlin? Okay, not bad. Who is located somewhere else in Germany? Cool. So who's traveling from another EU country? Amazing. Who's coming from outside the EU? A few people. That's really good. Who's coming from another planet? Good. Good mix. That's great. And what is your day job? Who is an digital analyst? Okay, not everybody. That's good. Who works more on the marketing side? Yeah, marketing. Okay, that's good. Sometimes like some titles are kind of combined, like digital analytics plus marketing plus more things. Who's more like considers themselves like a hardcore data scientist? I'm not an analyst. Some hesitation. Good. Who's a product manager? Excellent. Who's an engineer? How many of those engineers are data engineers? Very good. I think we have. Who has nothing to do with tech at all? Like gardeners, one person. I don't know, cooks, chefs. I want to be a chef, but I know it's hard. Great. So how many years of experience do you have? Who has more than 20 years of experience? More than 20 years of experience in tech, working in tech? Just tech world. You know that careers are not like a straight line. They make a lot of wiggles. Very good. Who has more than 15? Or yeah, 15, 20. Between 15 and 20. I'm going to get my ranges all right. Between 15 and 20. Between 10 and 15. Between 8 and 10. Between 5 and 8. Good. Between 3 and 5. 2 or 3. Yeah. Just 2 years of experience. Just 1 year of experience. Less than a year of experience. Also. Okay, that's a good mix also. Excellent. Who is planning to run a session? Okay. I've seen some cards on the board already. That's kind of like against the rules, so we are supposed to open the board a bit later, but that's fine. We're not going to enforce the rules so much. But it's good. We have a lot of engagement already. This is about that exactly, so maybe you don't have an idea right now about what you want to talk about, but maybe it comes to you during the day. Find a spot. I'm sure there will be some spots available throughout the day. Very good. So this thing, I don't think any of you paid anything for it. I didn't. For the nice breakfast, for the location. This thing is just thanks to our fantastic sponsors. So I will ask for a big, massive round of applause for our gold sponsors, Pleo, Piano, and Morstade. Big applause, big noise, be loud. Thanks so much. This is only possible thanks to them. Actually, Morstade, besides being a gold sponsor, also is sponsoring the party that we'll have later. I'll speak about the party later. Another big round of applause for eDialog, Google, and eDynamics, our silver sponsors. Louder! Thank you so much, sponsors. This is great. And as well, this beautiful office belongs to SumUp, and they're giving it to us for free. So also a big round of applause for SumUp for having us here today. Thanks so much. Cool. One more sponsor. The drinks are on Dirta Digital. This is Dirta Digital. Big applause also for them. Thanks so much. We'll stay hydrated thanks to them. Very good. Okay. So what is an unconference? For those of you who've never been to an unconference to MeasureCamp. So basically the idea of the unconference is an alternative to the traditional conference. Usually when you sign up for a conference, you know who's going to be speaking, what are the time slots, usually big names industry, blah, blah, blah. So here is the opposite. Usually when you come here, you have no idea who's going to be speaking. Actually, the speakers can be you if you want. And it's usually, you know, the same kind of the director of analytics for whatever company has the same weight as the junior analyst from whatever other company. That's what's very cool about the unconference. There's one single objective today, which is transferring knowledge and have a bit of fun. So knowledge, transfer knowledge is a two-way street. So there's two sides. You give, you take, right? So this is our goal today. We're going to do both things. There's not a lot of structure. But the little structure that we have is basically designed to encourage discussion. So the ones of you who want to have a presentation today, who want to have a talk, I encourage you to not do it like the classic, you know, professor, slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, but actually open it up more as a conversation. This is where most of the value actually comes when you engage in discussions with the people that are in the room. Just a suggestion. We can, of course, not force you. All right, so the session board. The session board is that beautiful DIY thing that we have on that glass board over there. You see that we have on the horizontals, we have rooms. On the verticals, we have times. And pay attention because, well, what I said, anyone can run a session on anything. Just write it up, add it to the board as soon as we open the board, not before. Rooms are different sizes, and they are basically adapted to different styles. So for instance, this is a room in itself. That's the one that is labeled as kitchen. This is actually going to be streamed on YouTube. Only the slides and the sound, not the faces or the video. So if you want to give like one of those like nice speeches that ends up as a TED Talk, this is your place, right? Then we have like smaller rooms. You want to have something that is a bit more quiet for a smaller group, then you go in the smaller rooms. You find it there. Just pick the one that makes the most sense for you. These are the session cards. You will have them printed out there. So basically, write your name, the title, use something catchy for the title. You write a paragraph there. I don't know. I mean, you know marketing, right? Just put it in practice. Session description, which is the language that we're going to use. I mean, I basically speak Spanish, as I said, and English. But if you want to use German or something else, of course, go for it. Just add it in there. Sign up here, whatever is like more beginner level, oh, what a typo, or advanced, so people know what to expect. If it's more a discussion or a presentation, if it's more on the business side or on the technical side, so people know what they want to go for. I could have used a clicker. One rule, the rule of 2 feet. If you don't like what you're hearing, if you're not enjoying the conversation, just leave. Find another conversation. We have a lot of rooms, a lot of parallel discussions, so just find something that you like better. That's okay. Am I missing something? I don't think so. Okay. More conference points. Okay, one key word to remember is respect. For the venue, for starters, for the speakers, and for everyone else. There will be no hard selling today. This is for all of you who came here trying to sell their product or services. You're probably going to do it anyway, but just do it like low-key, okay? So that it's not super obvious. And conferences are very informal. Look at my suit today, what I'm wearing. Prepare for a bit of chaos. Prepare for a bit of fun, hopefully. And we will be strict with the timings. So this year, actually, we went for longer breaks between sessions. Usually, MeasureCamp has 5-minute breaks between sessions. We're going for 10. So, you know, we're a bit rusty after 2 years of sitting at home. Okay, we now have 10 minutes to change rooms. But we're going to be still strict with the end of the session so that, you know, they don't overlap. That's one of my main tasks. Go room after room yelling, 5 minutes. If I do that, please take 5 minutes to finish. That would be great. Great. Oh, okay. This didn't work as I expected. Cool. We are actually implementing something interesting, which is we're going to have a dot system, like these little colors, to label yourselves. We have yellow for this is my first MeasureCamp. Pink or kind of reddish pink for I offer pro bono consulting. So if you want to help people just for free. The green one that is supposed to be green is I open for a change. Any type of change, whatever you want to think about. The black one is Ich spreche nur Deutsch. I only speak German, which is also fine to have it. And I think good to, something's going on. Okay, I'm going to go. And then the white one, I can tell an analytics joke. So this is intended just to tell a bit more about yourselves and also like an easy way to strike a conversation. So the dots are over there close to the session board. Just pick the one that you think represents you best, or the ones, and if you want, of course, and put them on your sticker so people know more about you. Right on. Cool, something about the venue. So please, 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 pretty please, stay within the allowed space. This is the best I could do in terms of like a floor plan. I know it's not very, I don't know, good, but basically this is where we are today, right now, main stage, so the kitchen, this is where you came in through, so the elevators and the entrance. You have toilets here, also on the other side, and then basically most of the rooms are on the other side, so behind you right now, okay? Around, you have like those 5 rooms, and on the other side, we have another room, and then the main stage would also be used as a room. The space where you are not supposed to be in is delimited with like plants and whiteboards and stuff like that. The basic idea is, if it looks like a working space, you shouldn't be there. And if you have the feeling that you shouldn't be there, it's because probably you shouldn't be there. So just respect the venue. Always wear your name tag. So your name tag, I think we already told you this. This is basically what identifies you as an attendee of the conference. So security will know that you're with us. And strictly forbidding to smoke anywhere. Because I heard there are some balconies where you can actually go. Don't go there for smoke. You want to smoke, go downstairs. That's the only way the only place where you can smoke, so on the street. Whew, so much talking. Okay. You already downloaded this probably. If not, this is your digital guide, so you can download it on your phone. As you may realize, we're trying to go as paperless as possible, so there's no lanyards. Also, we didn't print any swag or merchandise, anything like that, trying to be, lower impact, because in previous times, we saw a lot of stuff ended up in the trash, and that's just a waste of money and resources. It's sad. So we're trying not to do that. So here you can get the info about the day. You have questions about anything, ask us in the green t-shirts. The bathrooms are on both sides of the entrance of the elevator. So one behind here, the other one on the other side. You have the little floor map, it will tell you. Again, no smoking. There's screen adapters in every room. If something doesn't work, on the other side where the sponsors are, where the sponsor booths are, I've been told there's a big screen by the Google booth, and down there, there's a drawer with a lot of additional adapters. I know it sounds like a quest. If you still need help with the adapters, let us know. We'll try to fix it for you. Okay? Also, there will be prizes. Stay tuned. So our sponsors, Moorstade and Piano, are giving prizes. Moorstade for the best player of the night simulator that they said there. So you just play, and the one who does the fastest lap will get a prize. We'll announce that in the end. And also Piano is giving another prize to the most engaged participant today. So be engaged, you gain a prize. Okay? And then the Wi-Fi. You have this QR codes all over the office where you can get your Wi-Fi access. Whew. One more thing, charities. So all the money that we collected that we are not spending is going to these 3 charities. You also have the opportunity to influence how much goes to each of them by voting with the dot system. So I think, did we set it up over there? Yes, okay. So dot system, you just put your dot on the charity that you prefer. Basically, we make a distribution across the 3 of them based on the preference of the audience. So Action Mensch for Ukraine, the School of Digital Integration, the Ready School of Digital Integration, and Berliner Tafel. If you want more info, Google it. No, I can tell you more about it later, of course. One of the last things, after party. So we finish at 5. We can be a bit slow, but basically we finish at 5 somethings. From 6:30 to 10:30, we have an amazing party, like 40 minutes walk from here at the James June Summer Garden. There will be drinks, there will be food, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, vegetarian, vegan, or with meat, everything is in there. Everything's for free for the participants for a lot of hours, so you can have dinner and a buzz on us. Also thanks to Morstad, so this is also coming from them. It would be great to see you there. And I feel I've been talking for ages. You can follow us on Twitter. Yeah. And in closing, again, thank you to the sponsors for supporting the community. Can I ask for another applause for the sponsors? And then we just close. Thank you to the organizing committee, to the people in the green shirts over there. Thank you. Another applause for them, please. Thank to all of you for being here on a Saturday morning. This is love for the profession. Applause to yourselves. And yeah, we really hope you enjoy the experience. Again, if you need anything, you have questions, come to us. Before I close, any questions right now that you would like to ask before we start?
What about sharing on social media?
Totally, you can share with social media. This is our usual hashtag, MeasureCampBear, like hashtag MeasureCampBear. Go for it. That should be great to have it there. And then we can even like make a small collection by the end of the day.
The YouTube streaming, how do we access it?
How does it work, Moritz?
Good question. The mic. Sorry.
Speak in the mic.
Yeah, what was the question?
How can we get to the YouTube streaming? So what is the channel? Or
Yeah, basically,
it's easy.
I did not prepare the link for the audience here because I didn't expect it, but yeah, I will provide it. So basically, come here like in some minutes and it will be shared.
It should be easy to find anyway. MeasureCamp Berlin. So you go on Google, find MeasureCamp.
It's called MeasureCamp Berlin. So
Right. So
hopefully you find it.
yeah, I think that YouTube did a good job. Thank you, Moritz, with the search engine. So I think we can find it. Great. So the session grid is now open. Now is your time to swarm over there, look at what's going to happen, plan your day, pose your sessions, have fun. And as I said, we're here for you. Enjoy the day. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Please do respect the rule of 2 feet, and I promise I won't be offended if you prefer other sessions after you find out what the talk is about. So my name's Archit. I work at a company called Snowplow. I don't know if anyone has heard of it. We kind of an analytics platform, so we help companies collect web and mobile data from their sites and load it to their warehouse or lake to do AI and advanced analytics. And so the reason I'm giving this talk is Snowplow is not a CDP by any measure. But in my role, so for a couple of years at Snowplow, I worked effectively as an analyst, building out projects for our customers in the warehouse or lake. But for the last year or so, I've been doing a lot of research in the industry in general to see what kind of technologies are emerging and where they're going. And so I wanted to share that learning. So this talk isn't really about Snowplow. It's more about the research I've been doing in an adjacent space, which is the CDP space, to see where they came from, where they are now, and where I think they might be going. I want to caveat this really heavily by saying I may not know what I'm talking about, so please do, if you see something on the screen and you're like, that's not true, I actually know yet, so please speak up and correct me. I would really love that. So yeah, and please do reach out. The slides are there available if you wanted to see it anytime. But I'm always up for a chat at MeasureCamp or even afterwards. So what I'll talk through is what came out from my research of where CDPs came from 20 years ago, where they're at now, and where they're going, and maybe just a quick pulse of who has heard of CDPs, customer data platforms, before. Okay, about half. So quickly, well, in the course of the talk, I'll also define what a customer data platform is. I guess the thing to know is that there is actually currently a lot of hype around customer data platforms, especially there's a push from marketing teams to bring customer data platforms into businesses. So yeah, I'll define what they are as the talk goes through, but if anything's unclear, please stop me and do ask. I don't want this to just be a lecture. So what was the original problem that CDPs, or what was the original problem that some technology was solving here? So back in the day, this is like 20 whatever years ago, if companies wanted to set up or to use behavioral, primarily web data, to custom or personalize their marketing campaigns in Facebook ads, Google ads, you put your Facebook pixel, Google pixel in your website, and that's how you got the behavioral data into those ad platforms to build audiences. And it wasn't just those 2 pixels. It ended up being dozens and dozens of pixels, and that became quite problematic. And so there's this group of technologies that emerged called tag managers that solved that problem. They said implement one snippet, and then you can manage all the pixels that you need to emit this behavioral data to different platforms through a tag management solution. So that was a really big deal at the time. And so because I was solving a really big problem and companies were willing to pay to solve that problem, there was a bunch of companies that emerged. But in 2012, Google Tag Manager came out, which effectively democratized tag management. And that was a huge deal at the time, and even today, well, at the time, the other tag management solutions panicked a little bit, or were like, well, this thing that we've been charging lots and lots of money to enterprises and small businesses alike for has now been completely democratized. So how do we continue to make a living? And so what happened was there was this really interesting shift at the time. Don't quote me on this, but I think Telium was one of the first that did this, is they introduced a new piece of functionality into their platform for profile unification. So they were no longer just a tag management solution where they said implement one snippet and then fan out your event data to multiple places. They said we're also going to unify the profile so you get a better understanding of your customers, and then you can publish that understanding to all your different, primarily ad platforms. And around that time, there was a guy called Dominic Raab who set up the CDP Institute and started certifying companies as CDPs, but that's where the term CDP came from. So this was really the birth of a CDP, customer data platform. And so at the start, CDPs were effectively tag management solutions and nothing really more. And they introduced this additional functionality, profile unification. But over the last 20, so that was, I think, about 15, 20 years ago. No, I lie, 10 years ago. And in the last 10 years, that technology has evolved quite a bit. And so, is this big enough for you to see? a bit. So there's these five key processes that happen now under more modern CDPs. And this is kind of defined by Gartner as well as the collect, stage, unify, segment, predict, and activate. And so what these technologies have grown to solve is the generic problem of marketing automation primarily. So I, the marketer, want to personalize my ad campaigns to get better return on my ad spend. And I want to personalize my ad campaigns based on the behavior of my customers. And so the first stage is collecting that event, we can call it whatever, event, behavioral, clickstream data, but I'll call it behavioral for the rest of this. So you collect the page view, swipe actions. Then they unify. So they say that actually all these actions were performed by the same user. So let's call that user A. Then they segment that, or help you segment that, those users into different audiences. So they say, OK, based on these rules, if-else logic typically, we can say that users A through to E are in this audience because they're all from Germany and all spent X seconds or viewed this page X times. But then a lot of CDPs offer this prediction functionality to say, OK, now the users in this group actually have a really high propensity to convert. Users in group C have a really low propensity to convert. And users in group B they're kind of on the fence, so probably put your marketing dollars behind them. And then the really key bit, which is activate. So you can take the predictions, the audiences, the events, and then you can activate it in two styles. The first is audience connector. So you can say, take these profiles and publish them out to my ad platform. So I've got an audience ready to market to in Google or Facebook ads. Or event connector. So I can just forward my events directly without the segmentation of the prediction and just send them straight to tools like Braze, for instance, where you can set up push notifications or things in-app. And so that's what a modern CDP is under the hood when you look end to end. But because there's quite a lot going on there, CDPs actually specialized in the last couple of years into two categories, the developer-focused CDP and the marketer-focused CDP. So the developer-focused CDPs, have you heard about these technologies, Segment and Particle? Yes. So Segment is kind of they set a lot of the standards around this. So they're the biggest developer CDP by a lot of measures. And they focus heavily on the collection of the data. So they've got loads of SDKs, the unification, the profile unification side. But then Segment's strong suit is in helping engineering teams forward that event data directly via event connectors. They also have a segmentation functionality called personas, where you can publish audiences, but that's not the core of the platform. The core of the platform is about routing event data through SaaS tools in your organization. And mParticle and Telium the same. There's actually something interesting, though. A lot of these were, because I said a lot of them were tag management solutions to begin with. All three of these were actually mobile-focused tag management platforms back in the day. And then there's the marketer CDPs. So they have a completely different focus, and they're built quite differently. So they're optimizing actually for helping marketers go into a self-serve user interface and build smarter audiences. So actually, they don't focus that much on collection. A lot of them have got ways to ingest data from the warehouse, ingest data from a real-time stream, whatever it might be. And then actually, they focus a lot on unification, segmentation, and they all say it, obviously, but they've got ML under the hood to do a lot of prediction for how you should cohort these customers. And they focus heavily on the audience connectors rather than the event connectors, because they focus so heavily on how you group these customers together. And those are some examples there. It's maybe not a representative set, but it's some of the big ones that came up when I was researching. And so that brings us to the present. So CDP started off as these tag management solutions. They added profile unification, but then they kind of specialized into two groups, marketer and developer focused. One of the reasons I wanted to give this talk is I talk quite a lot to our customers and people in the market in general. There seems to be a lot of confusion around the term CDP. There's a lot of companies that put out RFPs for CDPs, or like, we need to get a CDP, and it's going to solve a lot of problems. But actually, I think there's a lot of confusion around the term itself, because it's when originally profile unification was added, there was a lot of buzz, and if you go on the CDP Institute website, there's hundreds of vendors that classify themselves as CDPs. But actually, there's an evolution of terms going on. So they started off as tag management tools, a lot of them. They rebranded as customer data platforms about 10 years ago, and now there's another rebranding going on towards customer experience platforms. So we can see companies like Segment moving towards that, because Segment got bought out by Twilio, which has a focus on the experience side and activating that data in many ways. And actually just recently, Klaviyo rebranded as a customer data platform. So there's this kind of move that way of a lot of platforms that were in different spaces, rebranding as customer data platforms because of all these CDP RFPs out there. And now they're rebranding again as customer experience platforms to really get to the business teams. But here's where something changes slightly, and why, like, at least I think the future is a bit different for CDPs. Is that CDPs are there to collect data from web and mobile applications and activate it for one specific use case, which is marketing automation, which is I want to build more intelligent audiences to get higher return on my ad spend. And they're now being used for other applications as well. So they are also being used for things like product analytics to an extent, often to forward the data into a platform like Amplitude. But a lot of companies are starting to take the data out of CDPs and put it in the warehouse. And they're trying to do, because they're trying to do all of these things, the thing that we're recognizing now more and more is that there's a huge amount of value to be seen in behavioral data that can only be seen, that can only be gained by working with the data in the warehouse, the lake, and the stream to build custom data applications on top of that. Things like, if financial the fraud detection algorithms, the best predictor of fraud is your behavior prior to committing fraud. Like, did you hover over the form field before you filled it in? If you did, you're probably human. If you didn't, maybe quite robotic. Or things like recommendation engines, paywall optimization, dynamic pricing. The best thing to predict how much to price your product at or your flight at is the person's behavior before they chose to purchase. And so there's all these new use cases that have, not new, but all these amazing use cases that exist that are massively enhanced by behavioral data. And CDP's data is kind of being shoehorned to be used for these things. But actually, they were built for these ones here on the left, and really marketing teams. So marketing teams are putting out these RFPs, or the driving force behind these RFPs. But the opportunity is so much bigger. And so what ends up happening is that the expectation is, especially for marketing teams, that the cloud CDP will be brought in. They'll act as a source of truth for the behavioral data from the business, and then it can be activated quite easily across all the different marketing platforms. Typically, Facebook, Google, and things like Braze, Customer.io, and so on. But the reality is that most companies have started building out data platforms to solve these problems. And those data platforms are filled with transactional data from ETL solutions, from the SaaS platforms and all of that, the server logs, all of these interesting things. Like data science teams the poor data science teams are making predictions off of log data rather than the high quality behavioral data they could be using. And so this kind of the data from the cloud CDP, the behavior data is being sent into the warehouse, but it's not fit for purpose. Then also the data from the warehouse is being used to enrich the data in the CDP, but that's also not fit for purpose because the thing you want to do, especially with the developer CDPs, is put propensity scores in there. That's how to build the highest value audiences. And so actually you end up with quite a difference between expectation and reality here. And so this brings me to the future. So I kind of covered this already, but this is a slide from Databricks. So data needs are massively evolving, especially in the analytics space. So the focus of a lot of businesses used to be on the what happened, the past tense. How many things did we sell yesterday? How many page views were there? But then it started moving more towards the why, which is the really interesting question. So why did our campaign to do this only drive 5% of what we expected? But moving more and more towards what will happen, the prediction side of things, this is where a lot of data science teams come in. So the needs are evolving, and our needs of data are becoming a lot more sophisticated to get to those a lot of those high value use cases. And so to meet that need, a lot of companies are building up their own data platforms around these kinds of solutions. So Snowflake, Databricks, Redshift, BigQuery, and that's becoming the central brain of the organization in a lot of cases. And so the ideal, or the way they're designing these, is to set up all the data sources to feed the data platform, or Databricks calls it hydrating the data platform. And then you can build tons of applications on top of your platform. And that's really scalable and really high value because you can build those completely bespoke to your needs. you're using your customers' data, your transactional data in one place, and building applications on top of that slide I had with all the applications listed. And so what does that actually mean for the trends that we're kind of seeing? So the more sophisticated needs, that's up there, like growing prevalence of AI ML. You could argue that there's a bit of a hype cycle around AI ML, like data scientists were going to solve everything in the world. You hired in an army of data scientists, ineffective because there was no core engineering, no good usable data mart, no reliable streaming solution, whatever. But the truth is that even if there was a hype cycle around it, there is still growing prevalence of AI and ML. And the second is, the teams are building their data platforms, and in the past, this was only possible for a company like Coca-Cola, Disney, whatever, to actually invest enough in an engineering team to build out a data platform. But the emergence of the modern data stack means that actually companies of any size can build their own data platform. The modern data stack is this collection of tools that you can composably put together to do each stage of what's needed in a data platform, the ingestion side, the modeling side, the storage side, the activation side. And so that's this really interesting trend. And what that has meant is that data-intensive applications are exploding. The fact that any company of any size can now set up a data platform, and that AI and ML is growing in prevalence and becoming much more democratized, that data-intensive applications are going through the roof. Things like personalization engines, custom attribution models that drive a lot of real decisions. And that, in turn, is leading to two really interesting trends. So I don't know, there's a new book on the data mesh that just came out. Don't know if anyone's read that, but if not, there's two excellent essays that the author has written on data mesh that strongly encourage reading. And it really, data mesh is, it's this paradigm that's, it's not about technology, it's more about principles in building out a data platform that's really scalable. And it's geared towards the enterprise. But if you look at the principles, they apply to companies of any size. So it's thinking about data as a product, thinking about the customer, what's the specification for what I'm building, and building to specification, thinking about who my customer is, how to measure success, and all of that. And things like being generous with data, that we should have data product managers across the organization who help to who generate data in their portion of the product, and then make that readily available so it's highly meaningful and understandable. And so she talks about these principles, and this is gaining a lot of traction. And of course, the growing importance of governance, compliance, quality processes, lineage to make models understandable and explainable, and so on. And so what this is leading to at the technology level is an unbundling of the CDP. So this is where we were, or this is where we are in the present, is that there is this expectation versus reality, and actually companies are setting up a CDP to deal with that workflow. But then there's this parallel workflow of them building out these platforms to build those high-value data applications. And actually what we're seeing is a shift to unbundling and embracing the modern data stack, where you center everything around the data platform, and then there's this really cool new category of tooling. Have people heard of reverse ETL? Some nods, some people shaking their heads. So reverse ETL is really cool. It makes it possible to set up automated actions on the data that's in the warehouse. So most people who have a data warehouse have a kind of data model that's building a users table. Most people do. You can plug reverse ETL right on top of that and send it out to your Salesforce, Facebook ads, Google ads, and suddenly you've got a CDP without having to get a CDP. You can just activate the data that's in your data platform. And here's where the slight sales pitch comes in, is that Snowplow is really good at pulling the behavioral data into your warehouse. I'm not going to dwell on that. And so one of the key differences here to call out is that, so I told you an assumption of mine earlier on that no one said anything at the time, which is that it's really hard to build data applications with data that wasn't created for a purpose. So CDP data pulled into the warehouse is actually really hard to use to build a recommendation engine. Few companies are able to manage that. And so that's this difference between data exhaust and data creation. So data exhaust is when data is created or collected for a purpose. So GA is an excellent tool to power the reports in the UI and to activate the data through Google Ads and any other pre-built integrations. But when that data is pulled into the warehouse, when you do the BigQuery export, the data is actually highly nested. not as meaningful as it could be. Now it's better with GAV4. The web and mobile data is combined, but combining server logs, and there's a lot of data preparation that's still required to do really sophisticated things with the data. And so data exhaust makes it hard to build those applications, whereas data created for purpose makes it much easier when it's when the structure is defined up front and quality comes out the box. So I'll pause a little bit there. So this is where we've gone from past, present, and future. So CDPs started off 10 years ago as tag managers with profile unification built in. And where we are now is that companies, previously only enterprises, but now companies of all sizes are building really interesting data platforms to compete with behavioral data. And actually, customer data platforms form a part of that, but not the center of it. So the part that they form is, remember when I talked about developer CDPs and marketing CDPs, actually marketing CDPs, because they're embracing data platforms, they are, I think, likely to be a big part of the future, is that you can plug your customer data platform into your lake or warehouse and then use the customer data platform to empower marketers to use drag and drop interfaces to build really interesting audiences and activate it. And you can argue that reverse ETL is a kind of dumbed down version of a customer data platform in this diagram. And so I thought I'd end with how to get started, which is a bit ironic. So because it's really daunting. So when we hear about FANG, Netflix and Google and so on building hundreds of data applications, that's how they compete. That's how they've built $500 billion businesses. And actually, they built hundreds of data applications on top of their data platform that they built themselves at really high degrees of sophistication. So they've got multiple ML-trained data applications. Like, obviously, no one can compete with that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think companies today very often are at data application number 1 at sophistication level 1 or 2 or 3, and maybe data application 2. But I think that there's a future where most companies can build 10 data applications, not hundreds like Google, but 10 data applications at varying degrees of sophistication. And I think that's going to become necessary to competing. But it's really daunting. So how to get started? And I think a big part of the problem, so a tangible way to get started is to introduce something like reverse ETL. There are open source options like Grouparoo. Definitely recommend looking into that. You can also just build your own pipelines, but thinking of the warehouse or lake as the brain of the organization, activating the data from there, I think is like a tech-first starting point. But I think a way to think about things maybe a bit better is that a lot of the companies I worked with approach analytics projects as in a waterfall fashion, especially with CDPs, because the CDP selling point is consolidate your SDKs, one SDK to rule them all. And so that ends up in like massive re-implementation projects that pause a lot of work for like a year. Now, actually, I think Agile is a better way to go here, to borrow Agile principles to see value from data. So what I mean by this is answering one question at a time at an increasing level of sophistication. So I think tangibly, it's data teams going to business teams that have appetite to use data to drive value in their business, and then using the results from that as an internal marketing case for the rest of the business to adopt more interesting uses of data. So for example, let's say we want to work with the product team. So how many socks did we sell yesterday? Let's start by answering really fundamental questions. And then let's say, do people buy multiple fruit-themed socks at once? So like, what category of products are they buying? Like, what's bringing them to the site, and what's their behavior on the site? But then is things like carousel interaction predictive of buying socks? So we're still not doing anything fancy. We're just answering really basic questions about the customer journey. So when they click through and spend a lot of time looking at a picture, is that predictive of them buying that product? Probably yes. But then that forms the basis of actually a really simple recommendation engine. So a lot of companies jump straight to, oh, we need to do real-time AI-powered. No, like, why not start off with a set of recommendations each week for the whole user base, and then do user-based recommendations, product-level recommendations, and then start doing it more like in-session. So you can start off with rule-based product pairing engines, which a company I worked with, they sell shoes. They introduced a really simple addition, which was not user-based recommendations, but for every pair of shoes, they coupled it with a handbag. So when you added the shoes to the cart, you got a modal saying, would you also like to buy this handbag? It goes really well with these shoes. And they sold 30% of their handbags just with that modal. So that's really simple. I can't explain how simple that was and how much easier it is to start with that, use that as an internal marketing case to get the buy-in to do the bigger, fancier AI-powered real-time recommendation on socks. And so this is what I mean by agile. It's like growing in sophistication with time. But then also, once you've tackled the one business area, driven real value from that business area, is moving to business area number 2 and saying, OK, so now we've worked with product. Let's work with marketing. So did our campaign for fruit-themed socks drive traffic? That's an easy question to answer. You just look at the UTMs. We're not doing attribution, really. It's just, did the campaign drive traffic? But then, did it drive purchases? That's a much harder question to answer, of course, because then, like, how do you define a session? Like, 30-minute timeout, maybe ridiculous for some businesses, maybe not, whatever. But then bringing intent into it. So did our fruit-themed sock campaign drive purchases of fruit-themed socks? I think a lot of companies miss this. OK, almost done. So a lot of companies miss this. Intent is such an important part of attribution. It gets missed because companies jump to like concurrent, whatever. But intent is so important, and it's actually not that difficult to model in. What was the intent of the campaign and what was the purchase? Did it match? If I'm advertising T-shirts, am I selling PlayStations and giving credit to the T-shirt ad? True story, actually. And yeah, did that, and then bring lifetime value into it. Was it just one purchase? Were repeat purchases? And was it what combination of campaigns, like not letting the poor top of funnel people in the marketing team down? And then you get to your kind of concurrent multi-touch custom attribution models. And so that's the second part of the agile side, is like moving to more business areas and driving more value across the business. I'm not going to go through each of these, but that you can do the same thing with fraud detection. Fraud detection sounds really big and scary, but my colleague at his previous company, they sold fruit and vegetables in those boxes, kind of like HelloFresh. He built a fraud detection system, but it was really, really simple. He built it with, just going into the warehouse, doing some digging on like what kind of onion orders were fraudulent, and he then knew how to flag with a simple rule-based system that this order was likely to be fraudulent. It doesn't have to be really fancy like mega bank fraud detection. And search, I've got a bee in my bonnet about search. The biggest missed opportunity in behavioral data is search. Your customers are literally telling you what they want. They're toggling filters to tell you exactly what they want, but no one's looking at it. So many retailers are just not looking at their search data. Why? Anyway, I'm going to get more and more hoarse talking about search data, so I'm going to stop. Please use search data. And yeah, I'll stop there because I've been told. A couple of minutes left. Yeah, thank you very much. Happy to take questions, of course, but also happy to chat later. Yes?
So obviously, with all of these changes, we're moving much more towards much more engineering-heavy requirements. Like all of these platforms require basically a lot of data engineering. What is your thought on this, considering that a lot of people start more from the kind of the marketing side of the data and not familiar with the data engineering side?
Sure. So the question was around data engineering requirements. And I think, one of the really interesting trends of the last year and a half is a reduction in requirements on data engineering time. So I think previously you had to have really large engineering teams to achieve any value from this kind of setup, which is why it wasn't so commonplace. But I think the emergence of the modern data stack is the thing that's reducing requirements on engineering time. And actually the engineering time is not so much like building Python or Spark pipelines anymore, which used to be the case. Now, like, you can deploy pipelines so easily with these modern data stack solutions. So the reverse ETL pipelines, one-click deploy. If you've got a users table in your warehouse, you can suddenly set up automated systems on the back of it. So you don't need engineering. The engineering you still need, and I think you will always need, is analytics engineering. Is to take the raw data in the warehouse or lake and transform it into derived tables that are usable by the business. I think you're always going to need that. And so I think a big shift is going to be the analytics community is going to shift to incorporate analytics engineering into the skill set. I think it's going to be a vital skill set in the next 5 years. I don't think we can ever expect marketing to do it, but I think that's going to become the role of the data team, is building and maintaining a scalable data mart. Any other questions? Yes?
I'm thinking it's like the CDP
Sure.
Or am I getting it wrong? Like CDP can cover some of the tasks in maybe premature state, and then we require DMP. But yeah, how do you look at it?
Sure. So the question was around DMPs, the crossover between DMPs and CDPs. If I'm honest, I've always been just so confused by DMPs. Like CDPs are confusing enough, but DMPs have always blown my mind because, yeah, I'm not going to go into it too much, but honestly, I'm just so confused by them. The times I have seen DMPs implemented, they're in some like weird silo in a corner of the business that no one wants to touch or ask too much about. They're doing their thing with their DMP. Let's just leave them be and implement stuff separately. So I know it's not a very good answer. I really don't understand DMPs very well.
I think what you said before, the intent is very clear. The DMP sort of was around to solve the silo issues of the company, which was quite unsuccessful, I think, until this point. It was basically technical. The CDPs, is, to your point, is much more meaningful. Like when people understand that not every data matters. Not, we don't need the big data or raw data or all of that. What do we exactly need to create that business value? That's where I think
Yeah.
data management platform sort of like faded along the way, and then the whole new idea of the CDP to basically to get the data from the CRM, from this source, data source within the organization. That makes sense actually. That's my understanding.
Yep. Yes.
So if I got it right, it sounded a little bit like you are against the box solutions, right? So my argument is very often we are in a situation where there is like a marketing department who is like they are the guys who want to order some kind of a solution, most likely a box solution, because they don't have a very good access to the data warehouses and the data lakes. So I kind of think that this is a like you're still living in a place where the organizations are organized that way, and that is like that makes the box solutions very appealing because they
Sure.
basically like build a data lake that is in their ownership, and obviously from that position it is easier for the marketing department to like request the connections to the existing data lake, but like it kind of solves the ownership issues, right? So what do you think of that?
Yeah, so I think it's a totally fair point. I want to be clear that I don't think I'm against the package solution. I think they're excellent solutions for companies at a stage of maturity. So I think a lot of businesses where the marketing team is, where the marketing team is the one driving the purchase or the project, I think these package solutions are excellent. I think my call to action is more around exploring where there is an appetite for the high value, high sophistication use cases to explore this alternative unbundled approach and to start introducing the marketing team to the warehouse. But I recognize it's totally unrealistic in a lot of businesses. So I think the package solutions are really important at the start of the journey. And as the company evolves, that they can move towards this unbundled system. But I think you're totally right that it's not realistic for a lot of companies to get the bundled one. I think I have to go. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
We can continue the conversation in another session.
Sure.
Of course,